All right, hello. We are back with episode 3 for the Passive Watch Party. I'm Kadae. I'm here with Ray. Hello, Ray.
Hello.
Happy New Year. Dude, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling like it's a new year.
It is a new year. And we're going to watch more stuff this year than we ever have before. At least hopefully. I don't know. I want to watch a lot of stuff. But,
Don't quote us on that.
yeah. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Pluribus, the new show from the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan. I think it's probably safe to say that we're both kind of fans of this guy. What were your thoughts on, like, just overall? We don't have to dive that deep into it, but just your thoughts in general on, like, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
I like Breaking Bad a lot. And yeah, I was a big fan of Better Call Saul as well. They both have the same sort of feel to it, and I enjoy the sort of pacing that both of those shows give. So I would say I'm generally a fan of Vince. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm like for those two shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, at the moment at least, they're probably my favorite shows of all time. So I'm a mega glazer for Vince. Okay, I love his stuff.
Yep.
And I watched all of Pluribus because the first season is now finished as of the recording of this episode. Which actually I should mention it's the 2nd of January. I think it's a Friday today here in Australia.
Right.
Um it's our first episode of the year. But I watched through the whole season. I binged it all over the course of 2 days. And I thought it was really, really good. I was pretty blown away. We
Oh
can
wow.
talk a little bit about like spoiler free stuff, but do you want to talk about like what you thought of the first season without getting into any of the specific plot points?
Sure. So I was watching it like sort of as it came out weekly, and honestly, I was kind of wasn't particularly blown away, but
Ooh,
it did
okay.
have its good points. I felt. But yeah, honestly, yeah, I don't know. I had a couple problems with the general feel of the show and everything. It felt not quite as exciting as some of other Vince's works, I
Oh,
believe.
okay, okay. What do you okay? When you say it didn't feel quite as exciting, what do you mean by that?
I don't know. I just felt it. There's a general criticism of the show that everyone seems to be latching onto, which is like the show feels like sort of slow, which
Hmm.
is like kind of true. I feel like not necessarily because the show is like slow. The show can be slow and it can be fine, but I feel like more so rather than it being slow, I feel like it's not really much going on in the show very much, and that's
Yeah,
why
I
I
get
feel like
you.
it's a little less exciting because I'm just like I'm waiting for the next thing to happen, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I know that definitely like so when I watched it, I watched like the first episode that I saw, the pilot episode, or I don't know if it's a pilot episode, just the first episode that I watched of the season. I thought that that first episode was like phenomenal. That might be the best first
Oh yeah,
episode of like any TV show I've watched in memory, at least. Like I feel like usually, even for Better Call Saul, when I was watching that, I think that took me a while before I got really, really invested. Because I was watching, I remember when I was watching it for the first time, I was getting through like the first season, but it was taking me a while to like really warm up to the characters and that sort of thing. I felt like the first episode for this show was a lot more like Breaking Bad, in that a lot of stuff did kind of happen. You have this like zombie apocalypse that almost happens. This is just like the first sort of episode, so we're not really getting
mm.
into too much of the plot yet. But
No,
I'll kind
I
of,
agree
I'll
with you. The first episode was pretty darn good. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
most of my criticisms come from like only half the show because the other half of the show I think is pretty great, and actually a lot of stuff does happen. But
Okay, okay. I will say though, and to reply to your point about it feeling like kind of slow or like not much is happening, I actually we'll get into the details of it, but I kind of love it. I actually really really like I was blown away. I was mind blown. This whole first season was like almost perfect. I loved basically everything about how it was made, and we can talk about why. But I think kind of a general sort of like non plot point sort of point about this sort of show is that I feel like one thing that Vince is probably really good at, and the team making this show. So they're very, very good at organic character development. Like what I kind of notice sometimes in other shows is that a struggle that, and movies have this problem as well, is that there's like a struggle to get you to care and empathize and in like get really invested into characters. Because in real life, the way this happens is you just, when you get invested into other people in your life, you spend a lot of time with them, you get to know them, that sort of thing. So it's hard to get to invest yourself really quickly into a character that's meant to be important from episode one. Um, so I feel like the time that you kind of spend with the main character in this show, Carol, helps a lot with like really seeing things from her point of view. And she acts in a way that's like kind of frustrating at times and that sort of thing. But it's I don't know, I get really invested into it. There's just a lot of stuff that was done that way that I really quite liked. But I can see how it's like it
I get what
definitely
you
is a
mean.
slow
Yeah,
paced show and that could turn off a lot of people. Um but I think if you're into the vibe of the show, um then I think you can kind of excuse it a little bit. I will say there were points where even I was like a little I was starting to get a little bored. I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. We're having this like long montage of like things happening. Um,
yeah, that stuff that killed me. I hated that stuff.
so there are a few. We'll talk about that in a second. What did you think of
Sure.
the acting and the directing?
I thought Ray was great, but honestly, I mean, I think the directing is also like all the whole show is like obviously there's a lot of care put into every scene and everything is
Hmm.
like shot nicely and everything. But I feel like I don't know if it's like the script or like event to event there isn't really much happening, and it's nice that like all of it's like in the nothingness that is going on. You know, a lot of the time it's like very nice to look at and all that, and feels good. But I don't know,
Yeah.
it just I
Oh,
was
actually,
in
you
my
just
brain a little bored.
that's fair. I you just gave me an idea though, for a point
Yeah.
that I did want to mention, which is this show does something that I feel like not a lot of shows do really, really well. This show does a really good job of like telling you, or not telling, actually, that's the wrong word, but showing you how characters are feeling and what they're thinking through completely like non-verbal cues around them. Like I think I love Rhea Seehorn. She was fantastic. She's amazing in this. I loved her.
Yeah,
She was
she's
my I
great.
think my favorite character and favorite actress in Better Call Saul. I loved her in that. She like made that show for me. So to see her like as a lead in this show I think is really really cool. But she does a lot of really she carries the show kind of a little bit. She has a lot of really good expressions throughout. She conveys her emotions a lot. There's a not this show has a lot of scenes and a lot of sequences where there's just no dialogue for tens of minutes at a time. I think there's some long scenes where there's just no talking, but it's
Well, yeah.
played really well. There's
But
a
I do love that because it plays into the whole idea of the non verbal communication idea. Without going into spoilers, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's also a character that comes in later that I'll talk about as well that I really really like. It becomes way more relevant towards the end of the show.
yeah.
But yeah, I like the directing as well. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about that's non-spoiler related, so we can. If there's anything
Um,
else you want to bring up, otherwise we can just jump into the meat of the show, so to speak.
I think I like the thing you said about time spent with characters. Like that is true, and that is like a thing that happens when you watch like something like TV shows, for example. I mean, that's especially like a pro I
Mm-hmm.
hear when people talk about an animated show called One Piece because
One
they talk
Piece.
about like, oh, you spend like so many episodes with these characters, you can't not feel attached to them, given all the, all the sort of things they're doing in each
Mm-hmm.
episode. But I'm just like, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I feel like I need more in a show to keep myself interested.
Yeah, fair.
Anyway, that's the only thing yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, so shall we dive into the actual plot of Pluribus?
Sure.
Okay, I want to say firstly, this is like one of the most interesting concepts I've ever seen for a show. It's really unique the way they so this show is about like essentially uh an RNA virus like alien like code that gets sent to Earth. There's this I guess beam of information that's kind of picked up on Earth like in the first episode and kind of to speed things up it's like a code for a virus essentially that spreads through people and the people that get kind of absorbed into this like hive mind become like this one entity so everybody loses their individuality they all coalesce into this like one being but there's a few people who remain kind of on earth. I think there's 13 survivors in total they say, and those guys are like the last remnants of humanity. And we follow Carol throughout this sort of journey where she's trying to convince like some of the other people initially to like join her in her plight to try put the world back as it was. Um, and they're mostly unsympathetic, which is pretty funny. There's an interesting thing in this show where there's like a clear bad guy, if you want to put them in like a clear villain role, which this hive mind sort of fills, but it's very the morality of everything that's happening is very gray, I feel like, because a lot of the time
Yeah,
you'll see things from Carol's point of view where everything that's happening is really horrific, especially to her, and the way she's like dealing with it. A lot of the show is like just I feel like half the show is just her grieving her wife Helen, and like her existence, within humanity and that sort of thing. Um, but when you see her interact with the hive mind and then they explain sort of stuff from their point of view, it's all very like they justify it very logically. So you can
yeah.
see how
I
everything
think
is rationalized. I like
sort
that
of
a
the
lot.
idea of like a more empathetic villain. So throughout the show, they build upon this pretty hard, and you can never have like a the main character never has really like a proper justification for why they want to turn things back to the way they were, because there's literally every reason to sort of join the hive mind. But I think that sort of not being able to give a reason but feeling like something's wrong is like sort of hinting at something pretty interesting, I think.
Okay. Well, she does sort of give a reason. I mean, Carol's whole thing is like she values like individuality above
Yeah,
kind
but
of the well-being
for,
of like humanity as a species and whatever. But I think she's also seeing
yeah,
it as a sort of like that I don't think she sees like even though it's like literally humans still in the hive mind, I don't think it's that she sees them as sort of like a human entity. Like this is clearly like a different thing.
of course, yeah. But I mean more like even like progressing down from that, like oh she values individuality, but like sort of why sort of thing. Because from the other hive mind's perspective, everyone's happy and everything's dilly dally, how do you do, amazing.
Yeah, like how you put it. Yeah, which is kind of interesting, right? There's this whole thing of
Yeah.
like from and this is like what the other human characters who are also survivors kind of talk about. They're saying like when Carol originally like gets them all together, she only gets like the English speakers together originally, but she talks to them all and says like, "Hey, we need to save the planet, right? This is horrible." And they kind of they echo like what you're talking about now, which is like, "Well, why? There's no war, nobody's dying, nobody's getting robbed." Um so a lot
Yeah, they
of
bring up a lot of interesting points, but I feel like most people, otherwise, just sort of a tangent. I feel like most people would not be okay with the situation that's going on right then in the show. So I was surprised that so many people are just like, yeah, this is fine actually.
just chilling. Actually, I wonder like if you polled people like what people would do in that sort of situation. But I
Yeah,
think yeah, I think the what you say there, at the very least for like the kind of audience that Vince sort of has and the types of people that will be watching it on like Apple TV and stuff, I definitely think it'll be easy to like sympathize with Carol's plight, like and her fight against like this entity and stuff. Um but yeah. I like Carol's entire journey as well. She goes through a lot of like a lot of interesting character arcs. She goes through like this whole arc of like grieving and then acceptance and then she's like almost semi suicidal at one point. She gets like she just like relinquishes almost to this like firework that hits her in the face at one point. It's
yeah.
like this is a crazy scene. There's some interesting scenes throughout the show. Actually, that's the one thing I wanted to touch on because I'm sort of jumping around a little bit. This show has like amazing shots. There's some really cool shots that are just gargantuan. There's just so many lists. I don't know where to start. When she meets up with like the other humans, they like one of the guys, this bombastic dude from I don't remember where he's from. I think if he's wearing like a suit with like native African print. He arrives in like Jet Force One. Guys, they have like that whole plane there. I saw like the behind the scenes of how they
Oh yeah,
made that shot. They like bought some scraps of like a Boeing 747 and then like CG'd like the rest of the plane in and stuff, but like the door and stuff is
that's cool.
real. It's crazy. The production on this show is like pretty insane. But they
Yeah,
have a
the
lot
show
of
looks super nice, especially during because you get to experience a lot of different sort of areas of the world when you bounce between the different survivors. So I thought they did a good
Mhm.
attention to detail there.
Yeah, true. Well, on the note of the survivors, I feel like one thing that's like maybe a slight criticism from me, a little bit, is that you I'll get into one. There's one survivor that I think is quite interesting.
Yeah,
The rest of the survivors who are kind of like all
aside from
together,
Carol, yeah,
but aside from Carol, Carol's interesting. Um, but most of the other survivors, you kind of see them like once, and then maybe have like you see maybe one or two of them like again like one other time or something. But
yeah.
you
There's
really don't
actually
get.
only one other character aside from the two we're thinking about. I don't know why we're not. It's Carol and Menusa, so the two interesting
Yeah.
characters.
Menusos, yeah,
And
is the.
then you have the what's the other guy's name? The guy who came in the plane and is like living it up, um,
Oh, I can't.
hedonistic style.
Yeah, I can't remember. His name
I
is
don't
like
remember.
what's his name? He had some like wacky name that I remember, but
I'm gonna look it up.
I thought it was funny, but I can't remember his name. It's like Mr.
Mister
Diabate or
Mister
something.
Diabate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy. That guy's
Yeah,
awesome. I
he's
like him in the show.
also
He's
an interesting
cool.
character. But yeah, I feel like most of the other survivors don't get very much screen time or development.
Yeah, I
Which
feel
is
like
okay if they want to focus on the others. But I feel like substance.
yeah. There's like
But
not
yeah,
that much
go.
interaction, which I think it's like kind of the point, but it's also kind of a weakness. I also think because of like how it's structured, I feel like there's a bit of a limit to like where the show can go, just because there's so few other people. And it seems like
Yeah,
Mr. Diabate is like he's like sort of like a stand-in for almost like the other people a little bit, it feels like, towards the later parts of the show. But I,
like
I
the
will
mediator. Yeah,
yeah. He's like sort of speaking on like behalf of the others a little bit. Like not literally, but he's kind of like a stand-in in the show for like all the other people, it feels like.
that is an interesting point where the show kind of has to develop around the idea that there are only like really four characters that they can actually use, like aside from like Rhea, you have Minosis, and you got Mr. Daibate, and then you have, if you want to make the hive mind throne like sort of character, and that's pretty much it. You have like
Yeah,
you're sort
true.
of operating with the constraints of these characters to sort of develop your plot.
Yeah. So I'm like I feel like it's worked for season 1, but I'm a little worried for what's going to happen next because there's not
I think even for season one, I don't know if it worked, but I do appreciate
yeah.
the sort of ambition. Yeah,
Yeah, true. But yeah, what you the point you make actually about the hive mind is actually really true. It is literally actually just one character, even though it
yeah,
has like many faces. Like all of those faces are just different like facades for like the same character, which is just the hive mind, right? So there really are only
yeah.
like a few.
I
Um.
think they will explore that like in later seasons. I feel like I've been reading theories about what's about what's going on. I feel like
Oh, okay.
the Hive Mind and some of the other characters slash people that Maria has been meeting, like the people in the Hive Mind, the humans themselves, they might like try and stretch and bend them a little bit to sort of become independent. We'll see the way they go with that, but I'm interested to see what they do next. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it'll also be interesting to see if they can actually turn any of the humans back to their individual selves, like and remove them from
yeah.
the hive mind, essentially, because they didn't
That
get
that
to do
was sort of
that.
the idea when the last episode with Menusis, right? It was like trying to reach
Yeah.
one of them. So
Okay, we should speak about Menusos a little bit. I love Menusos. He's an awesome character
he's
as
great.
well. His whole like shtick that he's like as he's almost like Carol, except he's less curious and way more um like skeptical and untrusting of the hive mind. So like as soon as,
Mm,
the great joining happens and everybody joins up, Carol's sort of approach is more inquisitive. She asks a lot of questions and she demands answers and that sort of thing where that's contrasted with Menusos. You only see him later on. He completely shuts himself off and like does his own investigating. He refuses to take food from them. There's a lot
yeah,
of interesting like little things that he does that I like that kind of give you insight into his character and what kind of a person he is without explicitly telling you with no dialogue and anything like that. Like when
yeah,
he starts his sort of solo journey after he gets a videotape from Carol, um when she sends out a video saying like, "Hey, there's a way to turn him back." He immediately leaves and he goes on this like solo journey essentially. Whenever he takes anything from other people, he like leaves behind like a note. Like he has fuel that he takes from like other cars, and he always leaves behind like 100 note in
yeah.
whatever currency they use in Paraguay.
He very much sees like it does tell you a lot about the character. It's like he's one very like traditional in that he will pay for things that he uses, and two he
Mhm.
sees like this sort of thing as temporary, like you can fix it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like because right now there's like no people around, but he's still like going out of his way to do this sort of thing that he sees as like a good deed or to make up for his theft essentially. Um, but he
Yeah,
like just his contact with the hive mind is like absolutely minimal. He like refuses to engage with them. They say like, hey, we'll even like we'll take you, we'll carry you to Carol, we'll fly you there. He just ignores them, that sort of thing.
he does not trust them at all. Yeah,
Yeah. Um. So that's funny. His whole journey that like he takes is really really fun to watch. I love that sort of thing. That whole like trip that he takes from Paraguay all the way up to like that forest like around the Panama Canal and that sort of thing. That's that was awesome. I love that sequence of events whenever it switched to him. He was
hmm
like rekindling his English knowledge through like those cassette tapes in his car and stuff. It was
Oh yeah, that
awesome.
like I don't know how long it was, but like that like 20-minute sequence of him just like traveling up through South America. That was I like that a lot actually.
Yeah,
I
that
thought
was
that
one
was
of
interesting.
the better drawn out scenes. There are some
Yeah.
other scenes that they do that are drawn out, but I feel like they feel a little too slow. Like the Menusos one, I think is like really good because that whole sequence is like all character building. I think so. There's a lot of like density to it, despite it being like very slow and gradual and that sort of thing. The A slow sort of sequence of scenes that happens like earlier that I think is a less thrilling watch is when Zosha is first selected by the hive mind to talk to Carol, like kind of early on in the
Mm.
show. There's this
What was that
sequence
episode like 3?
I think it might have been like two. It was really early. It was
2?
either the second or
Okay,
third
yeah.
episode, like towards the start,
Actually,
where
I do kind of like that, which is where maybe
oh
we differ
okay.
a little bit.
Okay, you can give your take on it, but there's a scene where Zosha is like selected. Essentially, she's this lady from an ambiguous Arabic country, I think, um, and she flies this massive plane. She gets this like makeover done, and then she approaches um Carol at her residence and that sort of thing. But that felt like that was kind of
I
a
think
long
maybe I'll
scene.
like agree and disagree. Like the general agreement is that I feel like a lot of these scenes with the hive mind, especially, feel very drawn out. Like another one I'm thinking of is when Carol asks them to refill the grocery store.
Okay,
And
that
I'm just sitting there like, do we have to do this again? Like we know they can all do this, we know they can communicate. We know they can do stuff together like, with amazing efficiency. I don't need to be seeing this. I don't need to be seeing this again. What do you think?
Okay, I almost kind of disagree. I love that scene. I thought that was
Wow,
like
okay.
of all the hive mind scenes, the grocery store one might be the best in my opinion. Just because like you see them in sync in other places, like when they're in crowds, they all talk to Carol, they're working together. But I feel like the level of choreography that they have, this is like from not just from like the show's perspective, like the in-universe explanation of like, of course they're a hive mind, they don't need to talk to each other, they preempt each other's movements, they're all working like one brain and like they're all neurons on this like in the same consciousness or whatever. But actually seeing all the actors and like the people actually enacting this like synchronized refilling of the grocery store.
Mm,
It was just cool. It was just a spectacle. I think a lot of this show is not just like, or at least for me, what I get out of it and why I think I like it so much, despite what might come across as like kind of a very slow pace, is I like the spectacle of it. Just because I've never seen it like in a show before. Maybe it's bad that it's just like a novelty. Like if every show did this, then maybe it wouldn't be that special. But I think because it's so novel, just seeing people like choreograph this way, it's just impressive. Like I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, I'm in awe at like their efficiency. And I think there's also like that's a feeling that Carol probably feels as well. So you get kind of that same sort of sensation, like you feel it and she's feeling it. So this like level of empathy that you're building for Carol, and that's like a sort of like bonding between you as a viewer and like her mindset as the person who's actually experiencing it. Because I mean
I guess
the
she hasn't really experienced something like that for the first time. But I mean, as the viewer, we've already seen this like a few times already, especially in
it's
the
true,
when
yeah.
they were finding Zosha. I was thinking during that scene, like, oh yeah, they're laying down the ramp for her as she's walking off, but they don't have to communicate about it because they're always communicating. I'm like, oh, I understand now that this is like the sort of reality we're living in now, where all these people can just like do stuff without having to talk to each other, and it's instant.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah.
like, having to see it again and again, I was feeling a little tired, but, like, yeah, I sorta get it at this point. I don't need to be shown it again, but,
Yeah, I get
yeah,
what
I
you mean.
understand it from your perspective too, yeah.
Yeah, I even agree with you that you're not gleaming any like you're not getting any new meaning out of a scene like that because it's not conveying
Yeah.
anything new to you. It's like even if they
I
just didn't
would
show the
if it
entire
was
scene, you
like
could
if they did like the
you could
grocery. Sorry, you could.
no, 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 you go.
I was gonna say if they did like the grocery store scene first and then the Finding Zosha scene, I would probably like that more because at least in the Finding Zosha scene, you have like an additional layer of development there where it's like the hive mind is literally going out of their way to find a woman that you find out later looks exactly like the woman on the that she had in mind when she was making the character for her book or whatever. So you have like
Yeah,
a layer of development there where it's like, oh, the hive mind is actually putting effort and thought into like this sort of manipulation that they want to do for to convince Carol to join their side.
yeah. This is a good segue into a point that I wanted to ask about as well. What do you think of the hive mind as a character?
Um, Probably a few things. I think they're it's interesting. I wonder why like it's not really explained, and I guess you can't really explain it if it's just like an axiom. I wonder why they like hold certain that we find out from Carol later on based on her inquisitive question asking and all that. I wonder why later on you find out that they're not allowed to kill, they're not allowed to um produce some things, they're not allowed to pick apples.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
They're
wonder
like
why they
they're
have
like
these particular
super
axioms.
mega vegans or something like that.
Yeah. Which for like a hive mind, it doesn't really make sense. Like you wouldn't like I feel like I don't know if you deductively reason this from like your your base principles. It sounds like something they just have and that they just stick to as sort of principles they found from somewhere. I just don't really understand that yet, but maybe they'll explain that later.
Yeah, actually, so on
Um,
that as well, I was thinking about that. So one thing that like is told to Carol, but I think she has a bad feeling about, and that we pick up on as an audience as well, is that they tell her, like the Hive Mind says, like, "Hey, we're just all of humanity. We've just connected. We're all consciousness together, and we're all feeling happy. We're all great, or whatever, right?" But there's like this weird kind of a series, or I guess collection of traits and behaviors that are distinctly like non-human, right? Like I feel like maybe in your mind, if every human could be communicating with each other, maybe there's like some sort of way you'd expect all of humanity to behave or whatever. But this hive mind does have some sort of like non-human kind of behaviors. Like, are there really people out there who'd be, who'd eject to picking apples off like a tree and stuff like that? Like,
yeah,
there's some of these things are like very contradictory to what they kind of tell Carol is happening. And the fact that they're like constantly blissful and stuff, I don't know, there's this like level of like alienness that's like underpinning like their kind of existence or whatever. And I think that's also partially why Carol is like so hesitant to like join them and that sort of thing. Like there's a part of her that just doesn't believe it. And you see her like, she
yeah.
has her whiteboard where she's trying to pin down like their traits and whatever. Like they can't lie at all. They will move heaven and earth to please her with whatever it takes. They also don't pick up on like sarcasm and stuff like that, which is interesting. These are all clearly very like non-human things. Um so I wonder
That
like
is true.
there's like this element of mystery. Like clearly they're not just humans together, or at least that's my interpretation of it. I feel like there's some element of like
There's something else
alienness
going on, yeah,
that's like
because it does
polluting
not
it.
expect. They don't act like you'd expect a group of interlinked humans to act. So obviously there's something else going on.
Yeah,
Um, their like inability to pick up sarcasm and jokes. That's true. What was I going to say? The
it's
thing
like
with
a
Carol, like Carol can't conceive
mhm.
that they're happy or whatever because from like a human perspective, like how would that make any sense? We can't even conceive of that either. So there obviously something has changed along the way. Even Carol thinks so. So it makes sense like in the show.
Yeah. There's like
A few other things
hmm.
like that happen. You would think like it's coming from someone who like reads about like the theory crafting about like super AI intelligence. I feel like you can draw like links between that and like this sort of hive mind.
Oh
But
yeah, true. Yeah,
despite them all being interlinked and having literally the you know um the combined intelligence of the human race like at their fingertips, they're actually very stupid like as a character.
Wait, okay. Expand on that. What do you mean?
Like they would. I don't know if I have a specific example, but like they will. I don't know. They have like no fail safes for like anything that goes wrong. Really, like if someone shouts at them, they will literally all just like collapse and stop moving. And they have like no way of like fixing that. Like you would think like a super intelligent being would have like some way around that, or I'm not sure. But also like they can't like for some reason we have like this thing of like um, and I guess this could tangentially be related to the intelligence thing, but we have this thing where like we can't violate people's bodily consent, but we
Hmm.
can make them turn into us, and we can force that upon them through like chemtrails, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
does that really make sense? 'Cause aren't you violating consent in like both ways? What is it about like your body itself that we're not allowed to like physically touch you? Why is that like an important factor? I don't understand. Like some of the axioms and like their actions, like you don't. I feel like it's kind of disconnected how they like step down to each other, sort of how they progress.
Yeah.
Do you find that sort of as well or no?
Yeah, 100%. I think everything that you mention is like what plays into me feeling like this is like there's an alien element to it because like a lot of these things are like not how humans would rationalize the sort of way. Like obviously like if you're not consenting to some sort of like let's say in the case of the show, Carol is like she explicitly doesn't want to be turned into one of the hive mind, and she tries to convey that as clearly as possible. And they say like, yes, we understand that. And she says like, when she finds out that they can't do this procedure without like her stem cells, she's like, yes, okay, I don't consent to that, and she thinks that she's safe or whatever. And so they are like, okay, that's fine. We will respect your wishes here or whatever. But they're like still sneakily trying to convert her like no matter
Yeah,
what, right? And so they have this like double standard, like you said or whatever, where they'll respect her bodily autonomy, but they're not going to respect her wishes to not be turned into one of them. That's like
yeah.
a non-negotiable change. Like the way they describe it in the show, like the hive mind says, it's like you're drowning but you don't know it, and which it's like a crazy like it's just
Yeah.
it's just
But
very
it's like
interesting. But
it's more like if you wanted to use an actual proper analogy, it's like you're drowning and you don't know, but we can't save you because we can't touch your body for some reason. Like why is that the way that it is? I don't understand their thinking regarding that. And they reason it out like, "Oh, sorry, Carol, we have a biological
imperative, yeah,
mission to convert you." But for some reason this biological mission stops at, touching you physically and restraining you to turn you into us. I don't know why.
yeah, it's very
You
alien.
think
I
that
feel
would be
like,
the
yeah.
primary directive of like this thing.
Yeah. There's also like another thing that you kind of sort of touched on about them being like about the hive mind being stupid is like they will give because of their like very strange. It's like one of their axioms, like moral axioms, is they have to please the survivors, like no matter what it takes. It doesn't matter like what they ask for, what they want. They will give Carol, for example, like anything she
I don't
asks
know if
for,
it's
as long as
a
it'll
do they
make them
is it
happy.
like a moral axiom or is it like a sort of it makes them happy to make her happy sort of thing?
Well, maybe moral axiom is the wrong word. It's more like they're imperative. Like this is one of their rules they have to follow. Is like they have to,
Yeah, that's one of their goals. Yeah, true.
yeah. So like, and that's like there's this nice scene that you get when Zosha is brought to the hospital, and Carol's like
I love
sitting.
this scene, by the
Yeah, this
way.
was a great scene where she's sitting with like the I don't know if it was like a fast food worker dude or something like that, but he was like clearly like in the place of the doctor because they
Mm,
a side tangent. I love that they do this thing of like they have just regular everyday people just dressed in
in
all sorts
regular
of clothes,
uniforms,
but
yeah.
they're doing like everybody's jobs because they all have like the collective knowledge to do it and stuff. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
that's a nice touch.
So they have this like guy come out and he talks to Carol and he says like, you know, is everything okay? He just talks to her for a bit and she asks some questions. It's like, she asked like, why would you give me a live hand grenade? And their response is like, oh, sorry, we didn't know if that you wanted like a fake one. And she's like, clearly, obviously, that's not what she means. But she says like, if I had asked for like a bazooka, would you have given it to me? And they're like, yes. And she asked for a tank, and they say yes. And she's like, would you have given me an atom bomb? And they try to like not answer initially. They say like, well, we talked to you about like the pros and cons, and warn you that it's a pretty bad idea. And she's like, that's not a yes or a no. Would you give it to me? And they say, ultimately, it wouldn't make us happy, but we would do it, which is crazy. And even at the end of season one,
Yeah.
they actually do give her the atom bomb once she like kind of breaks up with Zosha.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
after she
Side
goes on
bit,
her.
I whoever played that guy in that scene, the actor for that, he did a good fucking job. He was funny as heck.
He was really good, yeah. They picked, dude, all of the like the hive mind human entities that they've got like communicating to Carol here and there. They had like Larry at one point when they were fixing her house after the hand grenade and stuff.
Mm,
All these actors are amazing. Every actor in the show
they
is
did
really
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 good.
good,
Yeah,
yeah. So is this like it's a serious show, but it has a lot of really funny elements. Like it reminds me of like it's like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad in the same sort of way. I feel like they had similar senses of humor, where it's like the whole show is like a very serious show. Serious stuff is happening, but a lot of stuff is just like done in a very
comedic by
comedic
nature.
way. Yeah, but not
Yeah,
in like a sort of
so it
like
just sort of works.
yeah. Just like the little
Yeah.
touches like here and there. It's just amusing, and it's funny as well that like I feel like Carol is like a she's almost like a straight man character where she's like kind of pointing out like the absurdity of stuff a lot of the time, which is really funny.
Mm.
So I like her dynamic in like the world and that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, it feels like for them, making her happy is like the second most important thing after like they're trying to convert her to stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't really understand all of their constraints, but like that seems to be like the order of their sort of what's important to them. Because I mean, they wouldn't give her the atomic bomb or whatever if they really thought that it would like prevent them from turning her in the end. I would assume, but I
I
actually
don't.
don't know.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't. The thing is, like, there is this sort of like alien virus-like element to like them. I guess not like protecting themselves. Like you mentioned, like some of the stuff about them, like having the seizures and whatever. They're not. They don't have like a sense of what would you call it? Like self. Like they're not protecting themselves against like threats like this. Like I feel like if Carol wanted to,
Mm,
which she's not
true.
going to, she wants to save humanity, right? This is like Manusos was saying something like at one point in the I think it was the last episode or the second last one where he said like, you know, they're not human, they're better off dead if we can't save them, and she was like fighting back on that. So she clearly wants to save humanity. But I feel like if Carol wanted to wipe all of humanity out, it seems like the hive mind would probably help her do it almost. Like they would if she's like, hey, I request this, I request that, they would give her whatever she would want. Even if reluctantly, they would still do it, it seems like.
I think they would give it to her, but then if she did anything like anti-hive mind, they would probably just do the same thing they did in like what episode 5 or 6. They would just run away.
Just,
They
just
would avoid her as much as possible. So it's very much like a runaway, sort of
true. But
defense mechanism.
keep in
But
mind
yeah, I
though,
get.
after they ran away, the first time she asked them to come back, they came back. So I feel
I
like
mean, they
they're
were away for like quite a bit, and I
yeah,
think
40 days. But I think like it's not like Carol asked them to come back at any point during those 40 days. She was just kind of being like, yeah, this is great. I don't need these guys around. They're weird. And she did like her investigative journalism, which was like investigating like
yeah.
the plants and whatever. Like, oh my god, they're making food out of people and that sort of thing. Um,
I wonder if like I don't know. Obviously, she was very lonely. I don't know how
mhm.
she expressed that, and if like the hive mind had any idea about like Carol was because they have like fucking drones in the air, and we find that from Medusa's. Like,
Oh my god,
it,
one of my favorite scenes from the entire show is when she asks, you just reminded me of this. She asks like what during this time when they're separated, she asks like, "Hey, can you come pick up my rubbish?" And they say like, "Oh, as long as it's under 17 pounds, we'll come get it for you." And so she puts the bag out on the curb or whatever, and they have this drone and it like picks it up and like crashes into the light post.
is what I mean. They're actually kind of dumb too, because they're like, oh, they wouldn't. She would never have anything below 7 kilos in her like bag of rubbish. I mean, above
Yeah.
7 kilos.
Oh, and then they're like when the neck like I don't remember when she sends like another package or something like there's another drone that comes by and there's this scene of like the drone that crashed like days earlier on like the light post and it flies by
It's
it.
still
Oh,
there.
there's some cinema there.
Yeah, it's funny. But I was wondering because we know they have like drones in the air, and Medusa knows that. I wonder if Carol was like purposely like looking sad and lonely to sort of bait them back into the town, sort of. I wonder if that was like part of her strategy, or if she literally was just like, I'm just lonely. I'm gonna ask for them back. Maybe a bit of both, or I don't know.
I mean, her
I
loneliness I
wonder.
think kind of like deluded her a little bit because like after I mean it's one of those things like human loneliness is a very clearly a very powerful thing and it made her so
Yeah.
desperate that she would rather you know basically get together with Zosha, who's like a member of the Hive Mind, just for the sake. She would sacrifice her like her solo stakeout for the sake of like pseudo human companionship.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was genuine. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, she like she gave her like a hug and she was like crying and that sort of thing. But then
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
like, that turned into like this sort of almost like self delusion where she had this like honeymoon trip almost, where that her and Zosha were like traveling around and like went skiing at
she
that
wanted
lodge or whatever.
to play the fantasy as much as possible. You know,
Yeah, and then it kind of like
but yeah, she couldn't. You know, she couldn't delude herself any longer. It seems as after asking about
yeah, when she found out that like
the
they're still basically gonna do whatever they can to convert her, that like kind of crushed her illusion, and then that's like where the season ended.
yeah. Probably a feeling of dread on top of that, like, "Oh, it's just a matter of time at this point, and I've been wasting it."
Yeah, she comes back to Menusis and she's like, "You win." I will say I am very excited for whatever they make for season two. I don't know if it's gonna get made anytime soon or anything like that. I think it might
No,
be a
I think
while.
it's a few years away, yeah.
Yeah, but I am very, very eager to see what they cook up. I think this might be my favorite season one of any show I've ever seen. Obviously, like what comes next is gonna
High
very
praise.
yeah, yeah. I think whatever is gonna come next is gonna obviously alter how I feel about season one. If it like if season two sucks or something, then that'll change my whole perspective of season one because it's building towards something. So this is like it's like
Yeah.
a prospective, tentative high rating before like it goes anywhere. But I loved it. I like this more than the season one of Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. I thought it was incredible. I thought it was
Mm.
really really good.
I haven't seen either of those in a while, so I'm not sure if I like this more or less, but it was okay. I enjoyed season 1. I'm invested in the plot. Um, I really wish we had less, like, farting around and more I think another thing I said to you before was that episode 9 could be like literally 2 or 3 episodes by itself. I feel
Oh
like that
yeah.
like I those the ideas they put in there, they could literally have just extended it and it would have been super entertaining. um I think I'm a fan of shows with, like, more sort of character interaction, so as soon as Medusa showed up and was like talking to Carol, I was like super invested in like their sort of
Agreed. Yeah.
dynamic, because I think their dynamic is actually super interesting. So I wish there was like more time for that, and we didn't just do the thing of like, okay, we have a new character, we're gonna put him at the end of the show, so people are hyped for the next season or something, and sort of make it a sort of a cliffhanger thing.
I mean, it's working
Um,
though. I am hyped for like their just like what you said. I like the character interactions as well, and that's like the one thing I'm worried about. There's just like not that many characters to interact with, but
I
we'll
know,
see
but
how
then it
much
felt
like
like I
Menusis
just
carries next
spent
season.
so much of the season being hyped for this thing that we only saw a little bit of in the final episode. And now I'm like, ugh, okay,
True, yeah,
just
yeah.
gotta wait for a little bit longer.
It would have been nice if there was like maybe
Yeah,
an extra episode of them because it really just feels like this is like the beginning of like their journey together. So we didn't really get
yeah,
much of them. But yeah, I'm excited for the next season, but we'll have to see when that comes out. All right, do you want to talk a
yeah.
little bit about with me about Avatar: Fire and Ash? So
Sure thing. Let's
okay,
get into it.
so we watched Avatar: Fire and Ash. This is the third Avatar movie from James Cameron. We went to go see it in cinemas on a whim, which is pretty fun. I had watched the first Avatar movie a billion years ago. Like, I think I saw the first one when I was a lot younger, when it was like a bit newer, and then I didn't see the second one because I'll be frank, I didn't really enjoy the first movie that much. I wasn't like super into Avatar. Like, we can get into that a little bit, but I skipped the second movie. So then when we were going to watch the third movie, I rewatched the first movie and I watched the second movie so that I would have context for the third. And I have a lot of things to say about it, but I think overall, I am not a really big fan of like Avatar. It's like fun to watch to be part of like the cultural kind of event that is Avatar because all these movies make an insane amount of money. A lot of people go see them, so it's nice to be able to talk about them. But I have a lot of thoughts about like the plot and sort of stuff, which we'll get into a little bit. But what did you think of the
Yeah.
movie, kind of overall?
I'm actually also someone who saw the original Avatar in cinemas like a long, 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 long time ago, and I
Ooh,
don't haven't seen it again since then. So I have very little recollection of what actually goes on in the first movie. I saw the second movie on a whim just like a few weeks ago, actually,
oh
because
okay,
I was interested in like, oh, people were like saying, "Oh, this is like better than the original," actually, or something like that. I don't know. People were hyping it up, and I was like, I watched it, and I was like, actually, this is pretty good for what it is. It's actually pretty good, and so that was like around the same time that the third movie was premiering. So I wanted to go see it in cinemas also. I thought might as well. It's a nice spectacle sort of movie. I did enjoy this one also, but I feel everything that made the second movie kind of cool, like story wise or character wise or plot development wise, they kind of just rehashed into the third movie. I feel
Yeah.
like we didn't really progress at all through the storyline. We kind of just did the same thing again, and that's fine because that's not really what I go to see the Avatar movies for. Like the Avatar
Mm-hmm.
movies for me are just like sort of action, spectacle, explosion, flying around on the whatever the birds are, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
awesome events that I have a lot of fun doing. So for that alone, that did the same sort of thing the second movie did. I had fun with that. But yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah, I agree with you
anything
there, yeah.
specific you want to get into.
Okay, well, actually, before we get into any plot stuff, one thing that we should talk about is one thing that James Cameron, the beloved director of the Avatar franchise, he wanted everybody to go see this movie in the mixed high frame rate 3D viewing, which we actually did go
Oh
see.
yeah,
We went to see
that
it
is
in
cool.
IMAX, so we should probably talk about this first because it's like a non-plot related thing, so we can get this out of the way. We watched it in with 3D glasses in the cinemas, with the mixed high frame rate. It wasn't just high frame rate; it was sometimes it was 24, sometimes it was 48. Do you want to talk about what that experience was like from your perspective a little bit?
I feel like there are a lot of pros and cons to this sort of environment. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'll talk about the high frame rate and the IMAX 3D separately. IMAX 3D was fine. I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
only issue I had with that was they kind of blurred a lot of the details that looked kind of amazing in like a lot of the computer graphics. Like you wouldn't be able to see like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff in the background, and some stuff would be blurred, but like the stuff where a lot of the characters were popping out and of the screen, and you had like a nice layer of space between like the foreground and the background. That stuff was cool, but like it's definitely a pros and con thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that was like necessarily made the viewing worse or better. It probably averaged out, till it probably washed out in the end. For the high frame rate, I thought this was okay. I feel like in the end, I would have preferred if they just made it all 48 or 24 FPS, like
Mm-hmm.
they just stuck to one, because it was definitely definitely broke our immersion a little bit when it was switching between the two,
Yeah.
like depending on where I guess Cameron or whoever was in charge of that wanted to like give attention to the frames where they wanted more space to like actually show the action.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, but in the end, I think you get used to it a little bit, so it probably didn't impact it that much for me anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
Yeah.
think I would have definitely preferred if it was all 48 though. That would have just been better, but I understand probably costs more money to render it at that frame rate than it would otherwise. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think I mean I mostly agree with everything you said. I know that like the 3D it's hard to say. I think there was it's like you say pros and cons. I think there's honestly more cons than pros
Yeah.
for both. For like interestingly specific reasons. It's not that like either one of those two um experiences are bad in a vacuum. I haven't seen a 3D movie in a long time. This one was fun to watch in 3D. It's just there were a
They
lot of
definitely improved the 3D compared to like 15 years ago when I last saw my last 3D movie.
yeah,
Oh, another
yeah.
point with the 3D is that for me, I don't know if you had this for you.
Hmm.
For me, it actually darkened a lot of the screen too,
Yeah, I
so
was
you would lose a lot of brightness.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to say, I don't know exactly how the glasses that we wore work. I think they do the red blue. I don't know how they work, but I think what they're doing is like they're doing some sort of color filtering, and parsing like two images over the top of each other that are just played in the movie or something. They're just like polarized, but it's like what you said. The problem that I did kind of notice throughout the entire movie is that the movie felt kind of like a little dark. It's like we were watching it on like 75% opacity instead of like 100% brightness.
Mm.
Like it was a little bit darker because I think those 3D glasses are just filtering out color. I did also kind of like what the 3D effect actually looked really good for the most part. There were a couple places where I think it looked really weird. Anytime the characters, like the human characters, had like the scuba mask on, like the I don't know what you would call it, like the air filtration mask. That thing looked
Yep.
like it popped out a little bit too far, so it looked a little bit
Oh, damn.
weird. And anytime, at least for me, whenever I looked at something in the background that was either out of focus or during any of the scenes where it's like a thing that you're clearly not really meant to be looking at, like somebody's maybe a character's face is close up and like they're in 3D or whatever, you're meant to be looking at their face and their eyes and their mouth and stuff. If you look at stuff in the background, because I like to look around at stuff all over the screen whenever I watch movies, just because I don't know, I like looking around and seeing what's going on in the background and stuff. Um, there were a lot of times when the image like kind of like splits into two in the background. It didn't look as good. Like I feel like the 3D effect was kind of failing in the bits of the
Mm.
movie very subtly where you're like not meant to be looking. So that looked really not good in my opinion. I don't know if other people have like that same experience or if you saw that at any point or thought that,
Probably
but
isn't just us, yeah. I think, yeah, in retrospect, you're probably right. That's way more cons than pros with the 3D. I'd be interested in seeing this movie again in HDR, like on my TV without all the 3D bullshit. Because then I
yeah.
feel like you get closer to sort of what my viewing of the second movie was, which I thought that looked phenomenal. This one looked okay, I think, in comparison. Yeah, so I'd like to see it again,
Yeah. I mean
just because of that.
I think the problem is as well, like I've never found myself watching a movie where I'm like, man, I wish this was in 3D. But when I was watching this movie in 3D, I
Yeah,
was like, man,
man, I
it's
wish it
some.
wasn't in 3D.
Yeah, there were a lot of points where I was like, this looks weird, or like this looks bad, or like the colors are very dim. Um, so I don't know. I think it's more of a gimmick than anything. And then what you said about the high frame rate, I totally agree with the the switching between the two is like baffling. I have no idea whose idea it was that that's a good idea. They really should have just made it one or the other. I would have been fine if it was all 48. I'm not like against like a high frame rate movie. I feel like it would have made it look a bit like a PS5 cutscene or something, but
That's
you would
what
have
it does look like. It's so weird the feeling you get whenever it's like anything is high frame rate and you're watching a movie. It's like this just feels like a video game, bro.
yeah, it's
I
just
don't
like
know, and
cultural
I don't know
context.
if that's a good feeling. That's just like unfortunately something you have to contend with.
Yeah, man, I was watching Avatar, I just felt like picking up the controller, man. But I I don't know. I feel like either frame rate would have been fine, but them switching between the two was it was so annoying because every time it happened, like when it switched from 24 to 48, you'd be like, "Oh shoot, okay." You just notice it and you get like snapped out of it a little bit. But then every time it switched back, 24 looks so much slower and choppier like for the 2 seconds like after it switches back. I really really didn't like that. So that like just
Yeah,
it was just distracting the whole time. It's like somebody coughing in the movie theater like behind you. It's just I don't know. It's just not immersive, and I feel like in a movie that's like the worst thing you
it's a
can
little
do.
distracting.
It's like
Yeah,
breaking your immersion. So I don't know.
I
I
didn't
don't get
mind
it.
this as much as you, I think, but in the end, it is a little distracting. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that definitely.
All right. So plot points. Let's talk about it. We'll get into some spoiler territory. So if you're thinking
I
of
don't
watching the
even know what
movie,
the plot is.
go see it. Well, the plot is easy to remember because it's basically just Avatar 2 and Avatar 1 completely
Yeah,
rehashed.
true.
It's just the same movie again. The thing is, I watched Avatar 2 after Avatar 1, and I really didn't like that because that felt to me very derivative of the first movie. And you saying
Mm.
you haven't watched the first one in a while, you liked the second one because you watched it recently, and then you didn't like this one quite as much because it felt derivative of the second. It's like, yeah, it's just they're I don't know how they're doing it. They've rehashed like the same kind of general plot lines like 3 times now, where it's like,
It's a CG money machine.
yeah, Jake Sully's doing his thing. He's talking to the natives. He's like, "There's gonna be humans coming. We gotta get out of here." And they're like, "No, we're gonna fight." And then they fight, and there's carnage. All 3 movies
Yeah,
are the
but I mean,
same. Like,
even further than that, like from the first movie, I've not a great memory of the first movie, but even further from that, like there was like the final fight, which took in the same exact place. There was like the kids got kidnapped
big
and they
tree.
were fighting the general guy, but now he has a hot Navi girlfriend, and now there's a fucking tornado in the middle. Like that's basically what happened in the set. And they have the whales and stuff too, crashing into ships and the whalers trying to kill the whales. Like a lot of this felt the same, and we just like tacked on some extra shit. I feel like
Yeah. Speaking of hot Navi girlfriend, shout outs to Zoe. What's her name? Zoe
Zoe
Saldana, I think.
Saldana, yeah,
Yeah, she's fantastic. I love her. She's great in this
she's
movie.
great.
I loved her in Avengers. Awesome, awesome actress. Um, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It felt really derivative. The thing is as well, what sucks a little bit. The things that I did like about this movie, they either like didn't. I think well, they just didn't really delve into it very deeply at all. One kind of cool plot thing they've got going on with the Colonel specifically, or the clone of the Colonel that's now a Navi, is that
Mm.
there's this kind of point that comes up like a couple times in the movie where Jake is trying to talk to him and say like, "Hey, you're not the commander, or you're not the
Join
colonel.
us.
You're like just a Navi who's had his memories implanted into you. You know, you've seen the world. See it for what it is. He's trying to like break him out of his like hypnotism or something essentially, which is like interesting. And you see these like little moments where like the colonel's like kind of struggling with that thought a little bit, but that's like not explored really at all in this movie. It's just kind of brought
No,
up a
because
couple
you just
times.
know it's gonna be something they're gonna just like string along until like the final movie. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
he's
maybe,
he's
yeah.
going through his redemption arc, and it's gonna all work out in like episode 4 or 5.
Yeah. And then
Um,
I was gonna say the other thing that I really liked in the movie that they also just didn't do that much with was like the Ash Navi or the fire. I don't know if they're fire Navi, Ash Navi. The
mm,
the tribe of Navi that are living in like the burned down like wasteland sort of area, whatever. They were really cool. I liked their designs. They were interesting. I liked Varang, like the main sort of antagonist lady. She was very cool. But they kind of like I feel like they don't do all that much with her. They kind of serve like to give the commander a sort of a new allegiance to like fight the good guys with and that sort of thing.
yeah,
But
make it seem higher stakes, I suppose, because now there's another army that he's allied to that's also gonna fight, Sully and his people.
yeah,
I agree with you there. I feel like the Ash people and especially Valdana get kind of shafted a little bit, especially when you compare it to the second movie with
wait,
the
who's
the Way
who's
of Water
Vildana? Is
people.
it Varang, the main lady?
Varang, sorry, I like combined people's names.
I think it's Varang. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Varang,
Varang.
Varang, yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I think they get kind of shafted with like how much sort of development they give him. Like especially when you compare it to like the water people in the second movie, you see so
Yeah,
much of them,
yeah,
and you get to experience basically like a whole different culture. With this, they're more like we're the ash people, we're the bad people. We want to kill the other people,
yeah.
and
We
that's
like
pretty much it. I don't know.
we don't care about AWOL. We're gonna burn everything down. I love
No,
fire. So you get like a little bit. You get
and
like a taste, but yeah,
yeah,
they're just really. I don't know. They don't dive into. Varang is like the only one who gets like any sort of real
she gets a
screen
little
time.
bit of development, but like I feel like
Yeah,
even that is
so
like
little.
she's the poster girl for this whole
Yeah,
movie, and she gets a little bit, and it's like we've done enough so that we like give them the minimum amount to like service the people who actually came to see her. Like I wanted more.
dude.
She was meant to
Yeah,
be like way more important. I feel like.
yeah, for sure. One thing that like she really should have been involved in way more was like the actual climax of the movie because she's kind of like there
Yeah,
for the build up, but then she sort of just disappears. She gets like she gets
she
scared by
gets
Kiri.
bullied by Kiri and
Yeah,
then
by
leaves.
Kiri.
Like oh my god, that's it.
Yeah, she just pieces out, and then we just don't see her. Because I remember after we finished watching the movie, I was like, she just didn't show up again, and she's just gone.
Yeah,
I also
which is a
love that
little
like
disappointing with
it's
that.
we were these movies. I feel like that they have like a predictability problem a little bit. I can just
Mm.
tell the commander's gonna be back because you don't see him die on screen. They have like this fist fight with Jake Sully. I love whenever he's fighting Jake Sully. They're like it's like the most contrived battle ever where it's like, okay, we're specifically not going to kill him. We have like multiple chances to, but like
Of
just
course not.
stumbling
We need
happens.
him
He
for the
drops
next two
his
movies.
bow or whatever. He falls down, at one point, and then he falls down into like the fumes beneath of like all the fire and stuff.
Yeah,
So just
I
like
mean
he's
that's
clearly
an
going to
issue
come
that this
back.
whole series has. I feel like with that, you have very predictable plot points of like where stuff is going to go, and all the characters that sort of progress the plot are making the stupidest decisions so that the plot can progress. Like,
Yeah,
why did from the whole point, the whole reason the movie started was because Jake wanted to leave and like risk going on this airship to bring Spider back to like
yeah, because he
the
thinks he's
other
like a
clan or
liability
whatever.
basically.
Brother, your son just died from one of the fights that you did, and you like did a huge like you fucked up there basically. Why would you risk your entire family going on this trader's boat
Yeah, and then
just
it
after
does
that
go
happened?
wrong.
Like I feel like the characters aren't very. They're not making realistic, human decisions, and they're very dumb.
Yeah,
But
I feel like that's also a problem. I just feel like, weirdly enough, despite being three movies in, I feel like none of the characters are like that fleshed out. For
yeah, not really.
because I think the movie, anytime the movie really could spend a lot of time doing character building, they just do aura farming. They just like look at these scenes of them swimming and being with the whales and stuff. Like there's way too much time spent like just creating these like beautiful shots or like doing action scenes or whatever. And you like kind of skip out on a lot of character development. I feel like I have trouble remembering the names of a lot of these characters just because they don't stick out into my mind like at all.
Yeah.
So I have to like
I feel
remind
like a little
myself.
bit Jake has like the anime protagonist problem where he's like the good guy and that's like his character. Like he's meant to just be the good guy for his family and stuff. You get a little bit of like development for like Neytiri and Kiri and the other son whose name I forgot. Like you get a
Yeah.
little bit, but like even then, if you know, it's probably not. It's not too interesting.
Oh yeah. So what do you think about I remember I'm laughing a little bit about this because I have a feeling I know who you're gonna go. But what do you think about Spider's arc? This is like Spider's movie.
Oh yeah, I don't know why. I feel like everything to do with Spider kind of made the movie worse. I feel every time he was on screen, it just made it worse. And I don't know if it's like to do with his character or the actor or both. Probably a little bit of both. I feel like the guy playing him is not. Every time you like fang his fang his teeth to try and be Navi, it was like I was cringing a little bit. Like oh my god, just stop. And they just kept putting him
That's
into
funny.
more scenes. They kind of shaped a lot of the plot points around him. Like, bro, I don't want to see this guy anymore. Get him off my screen. But yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't get into him. I just not at all. I also had that thing where like he just. This is the problem you had too, right? Where he just like, oh no, he can't breathe. Oh no, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Don't worry. Kiri will use her magical Aura powers to transform his body into an avatar. Like, oh okay, cool.
Awa
Makes yourself
powers.
bad.
Aira's our friend.
Aura as our friend.
Aira powers.
Is Aura Awa? I forgot the name.
It's Awa.
Awa.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I was kind of like, because the thing is, they set up like, oh shit, he's got like the pack and the air, and I was like, this is an interesting problem that they have. Like, I think you even whispered to me like in the theater when we were sitting down, like watching it, like, oh shit, this is like, what are they gonna do with this? Because clearly this is like a, I thought that was gonna be like way more of a problem than it ended up being because he basically just like ran out of oxygen, and then Kira was like, please, Awa, but Awa like hates Kiri right now.
Please, Awa, please, please.
It's like Awa is
Yeah.
like Awa's chilling out. Like Awa's like, nah, I'm not connecting with you for whatever. Awa's mad at Kiri, I think. So Kiri is like, I'm just gonna do this shit
Find out
myself, and then
why.
she plugs in, and then she like goes, and then like puts a mycelia or like some sort of moss or something into him that like
Yeah.
restructures him from a cellular level, and he like then can breathe the air. And it's like, okay, well, I was
Guess you
I
solved
was
that.
I was a little annoyed that they solved it that way, but I am kind of glad that they like turned that into its own problem of like, okay, well, now the humans are like, well, we
Mm.
want to reverse engineer him. So I was like, okay, they brought me back in. I was
Yeah.
like,
It's not too bad if you like
yeah,
replace another plot point with another one. At least there's something going on still. I feel like it'd be way worse if they just sort of remove that thing from the movie. But
yeah, I
at
was
least
just,
there's something else
yeah,
to focus on now.
yeah, true. I was like a little scared when they did that. That was just gonna be like, oh, it's just fixed now. We don't have to worry about it for the sake of plot convenience. But they actually did
Yeah.
make it its own problem. So actually, I did end up not having as much of a problem with it.
The
At the end
only
of the
issue I
movie.
have with that now is that they're gonna have to, because that was like kind of the whole like reason why the military wanted to like um go in and fight the Navis again was to find Spider and like reverse engineer him to sort of help the colonization of the planet.
Well, they were like,
Um,
they had like a not a conflict, but they had like two kind of there were actually like there were three different um
the whale stuff too, probably.
yeah, they're like I was gonna say the humans had like three different like points of interest that were kind of conflicting with each other, which I actually kind of found that a little interesting because you had like the main mission they were on there originally was they were getting like this oil or whatever it is like out of the brains or the heads of these like giant like whale like creatures.
Anti-age oil.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for cosmetics and stuff and wherever. But so they're like doing this whole thing um with the whales and stuff. Which also side tangent. It's funny how like I like the message of the movie that like oh humans are horrible to sea creatures and like to destroying nature and stuff. I vibe with that a little bit, but the movie really just hits you over the head with it. It's not subtle at all. Like
dude.
I was just like
Yeah,
laughing at one of the scenes, like when they extracted the oil, and they have like one of the scientists who ends up becoming like he like kind of defects
That guy felt
essentially.
so ham-fisted, like,
Yeah, I feel like so
the
many like
marine
characters be.
biologist, "I'm just here to convert to the other side and then help Jake,
Yeah, because he's like
and then I'm gonna disappear." Literally, he didn't show up again for the rest of the movie.
I forget if he was. I think in the second movie he was like saying like, "Oh, they're so intelligent" and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Like
he
he's
was
trying to.
also in the second movie, yeah.
I forget if he was saying that in that one or if it was in this one. They're kind of merging together in my head
Yeah,
a
he
little
was
bit,
in the
but
background like, "Oh, they're so intelligent, no, you shouldn't kill them, no."
yeah.
Yeah.
But when they extract that oil and they have like he's the the Aussie. I think he's Australian. That guy who's like got the bionic arm now or whatever.
Aussie, because who else what other nationality would the guy who shoots the whales be? Be a fucking Aussie.
Ugh. I mean, they could have made him Japanese. That would have been even. But that would have been too crazy,
That would have
probably.
been a little crazy.
But yeah, there's like whereas like he's holding the vial and there's like this blood dripping down on it, and it's like at the camera. I'm like, this is like so over it. It's like almost comedic, like how like on the nose it is. But
Just
it's like
imagine like the most like racist character stereotype of like a Japanese person like wailing.
yeah,
That would have been
that
awful.
would have been off. I mean, it was yeah, it is what it is. The Aussie guy feels like kind of a comic relief character.
Yeah.
Which is like weird. I feel like that strangely almost kind of like doesn't fit into this movie. They keep doing there's like this sort of popular Hollywood tinge to this movie that I don't like, which is like none of the characters get any sort of deep development, and there's like this random like comic relief which like feels like it doesn't need to be there. Like I feel like the movie could just be serious all the way through. It doesn't need to have this like funny element to it. I feel like it's just if like you said, it feels like kind of forced a little bit. But that was
Mm,
like one. So that's one plot point that humans had. And then like the two other points of interest were like more kind of connected, which is they're both related to Spider in this movie. Like the Colonel wants Spider to be safe, and he wants Spider to join them because he has this like paternal instinct that's been
yeah.
imbued upon him through his brainwashing to become, or with the Colonel's old memories essentially, because that's the Colonel's kid. Even though he's not literally his kid, this is just a Navi body, an avatar, you could say.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that plot point, and then like the tech guy who's like just a jerk in every movie he's in every Avatar movie he's been in. It's the unlikable character, overtly evil dude who's just like,
Yeah.
fuck it, let's just destroy their trees, get him out of here. He has like no sympathy or empathy at all. He's clearly just a comically evil
The
Disney
most
villain character.
aggressive method possible.
Yeah, and he's like he wants a spider for the sake of like reverse engineering the mycelia or whatever that's growing within him, so they can craft it for them, so they don't have to use like air tanks and that sort of thing.
Dude, I will
Um,
also say, side tangent, that watching Avatar 3 with Tony Soprano's wife Carmine leading the human race against the Na'vi is a kind of a shock.
yeah, that was
It
funny.
was
I
very
remember you
funny
mentioning
to
that.
me. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there were points that I wish they. I mean, that's kind of what I covered already. I wish they had delved more into the Ash Navi, like way more. Maybe they will in the next one. Like I hope they do. I didn't mind the spider stuff that much. I kind of like him as a character. I know that you find him like really annoying, but
Yeah.
I like that he got like his moment at the end where like everybody joins together. They like put their hands on him. He's doing the thing is what the annoying part is like that scene is nice, but they're just redoing Jake Sully's scene from movie one. It's the same plot.
You
It's the
think?
same movie. That's what happened to Jake Sully at the end of the first movie. I think it was even like the same scene basically, but
Oh.
like they all like put hands on each other like you're one of us now. So they're doing the
Ah,
same
okay.
thing
We're accepting him. Yeah.
through scientific advancements. A white boy can have dreads.
I think given all the criticism though, I feel like I still like all the action, choreography, the direction, and like the motion capture
Yeah, that stuff was stellar.
and computer
Yeah,
graphics, all that stuff is insane. Like that's so good. And
yeah.
that
We
kind of just that makes what Avatar what it is in the end of the day, I think.
True. We can talk a little bit about like that sort of stuff. Like as a like we like that sort of stuff. Just briefly touch on it. I will say yeah, I love the CG. It's like I will say CG in a lot of movies doesn't feel that good. I feel like Avatar CG is like phenomenal. There's like it
Yeah.
clearly, in my opinion, of any movie I've seen, it's like the best CG by far. I don't think even I don't think any movies like today really even hold a candle to like the second Avatar movie that came out 3 years prior. That also had like phenomenal CG. So they're clearly like the budget is being used effectively here. Like when you give visual artists like freedom to do their thing, you can make something beautiful. And this movie does look the part.
Hmm. Yeah, the movie has so many beautiful shots and so much good stuff in it. Like the motion capture technology, I don't know, it feels like on another level. Like I don't know any other movie that looks like this
Yeah, no,
and
that's the
has like
thing.
this level of
Yeah,
like amazing CG. I don't
yeah.
know.
It's definitely like I feel like it's definitely ahead of its time. Like even when I will say when I rewatched the first Avatar movie, I feel like even the CG in that movie aged really really well. Like most
Mm.
movies from like the 2000s, because that came out in 2009. Most movies from that time period, their CG looks not good. We rewatched like The Lord of the Rings a while ago, and those movies are great, but the bits that have CG are like, oh, you can see it, and it's like really bad. But I feel like in the Avatar movies, it's really good. I feel like it might be timeless. I feel like also it helps that like the entire movie is CG. It's effectively an animated movie, so there's not this sort of disparity of like real shots with real actors and like the real world with like CG popped into it. It just feels like this whole thing is like way more like one kind of seamless experience. Like it doesn't I don't feel that
Yeah, it's
break
definitely
between CG and real
seamless,
life.
yeah.
And yeah, the action was good. It's always good. Avatar action is good. Feels very similar to the other movies, but the actual like fights are like you said, well choreographed. They're fun. They're the best parts of the movie, which is it's okay. The other parts of the movie, they're so weak, but like they are carried by the visuals and by the choreography, I think,
Yeah,
and
we
by the
love
music a little bit.
action. I didn't really notice the music that much, honestly.
It was nice. It was just like subtle and it just, accentuated all the scenes. You had like the water scenes and there was like this nice sort of airy music as they were excitedly moving through. I like it. I
Mm.
like the music direction in movies like this more than like movies that have Hans Zimmer where it's like they're just blaring emotional music
I
at
love
you.
Hans Zimmer in every Nolan movie.
Uh
That's amazing.
okay, actually final unless there's anything else you want to talk about with respect to Fire and Ash, I will say I am excited for the Nolan film that's going to come out in cinemas. I think later this year, Odyssey. We have to see that when it comes out.
Oh yeah, I'm down to see the Odyssey. It looks like it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big event for sure.
I don't know if there's much on my watch list that I'm looking forward to. I want to watch Sentimental Value at some point. Oh, and Marty Supreme. Those like two I'm looking forward to the
Oh,
most. I think
true. I do want to see Marty
I've
Supreme as
heard
well. Is that in
very good
cinemas
things.
in Australia? I know that was like a limited showing in like America only. Is that like
I have
here somewhere?
no idea.
Dude, we should check out we should have a look at Cinema Nova. If they're showing Marty Supreme, I want to go see that. So we should go see that together.
22nd of January, so it's coming out at some
Ooh.
point.
Okay, that's on our watch list. We'll talk about Marty Supreme then. But
Yeah.
okay. Well,
Yeah, not much else to talk about.
yeah, I think that's a nice place to probably wrap up. If you watched this episode, thank you for watching. If you listened to it, thank you. We're gonna try to make episodes a little bit more frequently. We'll do these short, kind of like 1 hour ones. Might be a little bit more digestible, a little bit more manageable, but we'll end it there. Follow us on our socials. Do you want to shout anything out, Ray?
Nope.
Make sure to follow Passive Watch Party on all the places. We're on like Blue Sky. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube, obviously. We're on every podcasting platform that there is, so give us a follow, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you for listening.
Bye bye.
Bye.